Steven Universe and all associated images are property of Cartoon Network, Rebecca Sugar, and any and all other respective owners. I don't know them all. All footage in this video has been used for the purpose of critique parody under fair use. Please support the official release. Fair warning guys, this video does get a little PG-13.
Where did we go? What did we do? I think we made something entirely new.
Something entirely new. Welcome guys to my second Steven Universe analysis video. I did mention that not all of these analysis videos would be on characters, that I would be focusing on other things as well, such as episodes and themes from the show. And, of course, also songs. Now, I am not a very musically inclined person. Supposedly, according to some of my teachers, I could have been, but I just don't enjoy studying music all that much, so I never really pursued it. But even I know enough about music that I was able to recognize similarities between the melody in the song Something Entirely New and other melodies used throughout Steven Universe. Now, typically when I recognize similarities between melodies in the show, I boil it down to the fact that the music in the show is written by Rebecca Sugar and mixed by the same people. When you have basically the same staff working on all the music in your show, it's all gonna start to sound similar. Thankfully, much more talented people than me realized that this wasn't just a case of coincidental similarity, that there was a bit of intentional homaging going on in this song. In fact, throughout Something Entirely New are chords borrowed from other songs associated with the first reveal of Fusions, including Giant Woman, Strong in the Real Way, and of course, Stronger Than You. Now, I hope I don't have to point out where Something Entirely New shares chords with Stronger Than You. I feel like that one's pretty obvious. But I was asked to do an analysis of this song specifically to point out the other similar chords, so here they are. You can see that early in the song, some chords are borrowed from Giant Woman, and later in the song, several chords are borrowed from throughout Strong in the Real Way. But that is not nearly enough to make a video, and as far as I'm concerned, not an adequate analysis of this song, because it holds a lot of meaning. The great thing about music is that music lyrics are poetry, and a poem, if written properly, can convey multiple meanings with just a single word or phrase. I'm actually going to focus my analysis on just the very first few lines of this song. The majority of the song is simply Ruby and Sapphire getting to know each other through a sort of musical montage. It starts off with them speaking to each other in a relatively uncertain manner, but as they get to know each other more, they become more and more confident speaking with each other until finally they dance again, and they become Garnet for the second time. But the majority of it is just their dialogue, just the two of them getting to know each other better. And while it's definitely important dialogue because it gives us insight into the characters, it doesn't really hold all that much more meaning above and beyond what it is at face value. What does hold the most meaning are, as I mentioned, the first few lines of the song. Where did we go? What did we do? I think we made something entirely new. It wasn't just me, and it wasn't just you. I think we made someone entirely new. I talked very recently in my theory video on Homeworld's view on Fusion about the fact that at this point Ruby and Sapphire, and therefore Garnet as well, believe that this was the first cross-gem fusion ever on Homeworld. That this was the first instance of this ever happening, and while I don't personally believe that's true, that doesn't matter in this case because it's the perspective of the characters that actually makes a difference. That is, of course, the very most obvious meaning of something entirely new. They literally created something that had never existed before, that being a cross-gem fusion, and Garnet more specifically. But there's more to it than that. Homeworld is a very heavily caste-based society with totalitarian leanings. That's something I will delve more deeply into at some point, but I really want to make sure I do my research before that one. Anyway, it's heavily implied, if not outright confirmed, that in their society, while most gems do have some limited freedom, they are limited in their freedoms by what caste they exist in. Not only that, but in their society, gems which exist in high quantities, such as rubies, are seen as expendable because there are so many of them, and the way their society is structured, they don't have any individuality. They are all treated as the same gem. And because of that, their fusions are not seen as something taboo, because they're not creating something entirely new, they're just creating another ruby. Sapphires are rare. They hardly ever meet other sapphires, if they meet other sapphires at all. So sapphires never get the chance to fuse. Through their fusion, Ruby and Sapphire were each able to experience something entirely new to them. Ruby was able to experience a sense of individuality, and Sapphire was able to experience fusion itself. As fusion has been confirmed by the crew to be a way of exploring different kinds of relationships, I think that in this particular instance, it's pretty obvious that the kind of relationship that's being explored is the most obvious one, a romantic relationship, and a same-sex romantic relationship at that. Now, I have no personal experience with this particular subject, but these are the elements that still jumped out at me. So with that in mind, let's look at these two again and compare them to some real-life experiences that LGBT teens might have. Ruby, having just experienced individuality for the first time, reminds me of the idea of an LGBT person experiencing their first instance of attraction towards someone of the same sex. Their first quantifiable instance of attraction. Maybe up until that point, they hadn't realized why they weren't attracted to someone of the opposite sex. And then they meet that one person who, for them, confirms who exactly they are as an individual. Through interacting with that person, they learn something more about who they are. In Sapphire's case, having gotten to experience fusion for the first time, that makes me think of a young LGBT person who, for the first time, is given the opportunity to experiment with the kind of same-sex relationship they have always wanted to experiment with. Maybe they've never told anyone about it. Maybe they've never even admitted it to themselves. But the desire was always there, and now not only have they been able to act upon that desire, but it might have led to something real. And if you don't see the parallel between Ruby and Sapphire and young people experimenting with their first same-sex relationship, then just look at it through the filter of any romantic or sexual relationship. These two experienced something that neither one of them had ever experienced before, and they enjoyed it, and they want to do it again, and in pursuing it, they eventually come to fall in love with each other and make the decision to spend their entire lives together. And this is all on top of the very literal meaning behind their words. Such as when they say, "It wasn't quite me and it wasn't quite you, I think we made someone entirely new," which alludes to the fact that Garnet is both Ruby and Sapphire, but also a distinct person apart from them. Needless to say, this is a very deep song with very deep meanings, and it embodies why exactly I love this show. A young person who might be struggling with their own identity can hear this song and derive their own meaning from it. Meaning which might help them to learn something more about themselves and come to terms with exactly who they are. In fact, I am sure there are more meanings within the lyrics of this song that I haven't even managed to pick up on. So I'm going to ask you guys, if there is some meaning that you take away from the lyrics in this song that I didn't cover here, please let me know in the comment section down below. More analysis videos are coming, guys, as well as plenty more theories and reviews. I've said it before and I want to say it again, I would not be here doing this if it were not for you guys. You're all great and you make this worth it. That said, however, I cannot think of a better video during which to bring up a very important issue that I will be talking about in more detail down the line. So this is a very simplified version of the problem, but to put it very, very simply, the copyright content ID system here on YouTube is incredibly flawed. It does not adhere to actual copyright law, which is why, despite the fact that everything in this video is protected by fair use laws, because I used a few select clips which are more readily claimed by YouTube's automated copyright ID system, as well as the audio from the episodes which I used in this video, I am not going to be able to monetize this video. I am not going to be able to receive any monetary compensation for my work spent putting this video together. And while the money is not the first reason I do this, the first reason I do this is to bring content to you guys. I am trying to develop this into a career, or at least the platform upon which a career can be built. And as I'm sure you can imagine, being paid for my work is kind of helpful in that regard. So I want to ask you guys two things. First of all, keep an eye out for my eventual video discussing my experiences with the YouTube copyright content ID system. I want to wait to actually put it together until I've thoroughly done my research on the subject. I also ask that you guys consider checking out a new feature that I recently added to my channel. I believe it's called something along the lines of fan funding. So I ask that if you think that my work on this video was good enough that I should receive some monetary compensation, and you do want to help the channel to grow and succeed, that you consider going and clicking on that button and maybe making a small donation. But regardless, I love all of you guys. I really mean that. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later. Do you have a theory idea or merely a musing about the show that you'd like me to discuss? You can head on over to my Facebook page and send me a message detailing your ideas, and if I find them interesting enough, I'll be sure to respond. Or you could head on over to my Tumblr page and send me an ask. If it's not something that I've covered before, I'll be sure to answer. If you are on Facebook or Tumblr, I also recommend that you like and or follow me there as well to keep up to date on all of my content, as well as any supplementary content that I might post on either of those sites. And if you know anyone on Facebook or Tumblr who might find my content interesting, please share it with them. I'd really appreciate it.